Hi there, my name's Hugo Scott Whittle and I'm Development Manager at Vortex Communications. I hope everybody's keeping safe and well, and it's great to be involved in the HBA event as always. I'm just sorry that we can't all meet up in person this year. Hopefully though, the virtual version will be just as enjoyable and educational as the in-person conference. And on that note, I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you about our CallMe family of low-cost IP audio codec solutions. Vortex started in 1987 with a small range of our own designed and manufactured products, plus some from other small companies that we distributed, which is the same as happens today, including of course Comrex, JK Audio and Artel. Move forward 30 odd years and we've sold literally thousands of Comrex IP codecs in the UK alone, and this is on top of their ISDN and POTS codecs, and they are regarded as the industry standard. Our big customers are the BBC and other national stations, such as Global Radio and the Wireless Group, plus many of the smaller community, hospital, university and school stations who can afford it. But today we're here to tell you more about CallMe. Most of the guest and remote contributions to stations have traditionally been using ISDN, with many corporates, banks, political and government organisations having their own small broadcast setups with ISDN codecs. And the same for journalists working from home, though POTS codecs gained quite a bit of traction in this area. As ISDN lines have really practically disappeared over the last 5 years or so, broadcasters have been using whatever's available to get better audio quality, because guests just don't like being interviewed over the phone, with voice quality that sounds thin, which makes them think that their opinions seem thin. This has resulted in broadcasters often using downloaded software codecs and, more recently, consumer applications such as Skype and FaceTime, which have been sometimes not bad, but quite often absolutely terrible, with phasey, gurgly audio and lost connections. By about 2014, the BBC had a huge number of Comrex IP codecs installed, and we came up with the idea of letting the broadcasters make more effective use of the hardware that they'd bought, whilst getting better and more reliable guest and remote contributions. So what is CallMe? CallMe puts high-quality audio connectivity in the hands of the broadcasters themselves, without them insisting that the contributor download special software or do any complicated setup. And the resulting solution is what we call CallMe Click&Connect. CallMe uses the capabilities of WebRTC and the Opus audio coding algorithm embedded in most web browsers. As I'm sure you know, Opus is remarkable in that the audio quality, even at lower bit rates like 32 kilobits per second, sounds fantastic, though CallMe uses 64K by default, which is coincidentally the same as good old ISDN, but with about 3 times the audio bandwidth. The other advantage of Opus is that it adapts its bitrate to the complexity of the audio being encoded. The challenge for us was how to access this capability in a way that could connect to the back-end hardware without being too complicated for the contributor. And after conversations with our BBC friends, we came up with a simple solution which they now use with an unlimited enterprise package working back to their Comrex codecs. Plainly, you can have the guest download a software codec application, of which there are a few, but in our case, the broadcast station is the entity that subscribes to CallMe, and it simply sends out a web link to its guests to connect. From our side, the setup involves creating for the broadcaster a web page with their own station branding, a background image and a logo which appears on the central control panel, and a suitable web address for connection. That web address is mapped via the CallMe server, which is hosted on Amazon Web Services, to the broadcaster's studio IP codec or codecs, by which we mean that if there are, say, 5 codecs in the studio, CallMe tries to connect to the first, and if it's not available, to the second, and so on. A normal subscription is for 1 call at a time, but additional simultaneous calls can be added to the subscription at reduced rate. So if you want a maximum of, say, 3 simultaneous calls using CallMe, you would have the main subscription plus 2 more, all mapped to your chosen back-end hardware. CallMe works with everything we've tested, which includes Comrex, Telos, Tieline, AETA, AVC, InCodec, Lucy, System Base, and if your back-end codec isn't on the list, it's only because we haven't tested it. So CallMe Click&Connect is a browser to hardware solution. I should also mention briefly that for our larger enterprise customers, we can provide rich analytics as an add-on for CallMe Click&Connect, which offers detailed connection statistics for calls in real time and second by second for any call in the last year. So for those rare occasions where a broadcast isn't perfect, the engineers can go in and determine the cause of the problem. Now, moving on to CallMeT. Of course, with the web link on your phone, everyone has a handheld IP codec in their hands, and many customers took their first steps into remote broadcasting by buying a studio codec and using CallMe for the time being as the main remote device. However, we found that many of the smaller stations couldn't afford even the lowest cost full-blown IP codec, the Comrex Bricklink for example, and were still relying on Skype and the like, or scrapping around using an old computer as the studio codec and various downloaded software apps. This is why we came up with CallMeT as a low-cost studio backend for CallMe. Why CallMeT, you may ask? Well, it's as in ET phone home. It's the home codec for CallMe. It's maybe an odd place to start, but CallMe doesn't have multiple algorithms, doesn't have mobile connectivity with a dongle or Wi-Fi, doesn't have AES digital audio, doesn't have a mic preamplifier, doesn't have multi-streaming, and doesn't have a central management server associated with it. And it doesn't do much. But what it does do has been done properly, so it has proper balanced 2-channel audio in and out, Opus G722 and G711 coding only, for which we've implemented all the data rates and options, which means that it's compatible in the connectivity that it does have with other IP audio codecs. And originally that was about it. Everything was controlled and set up using its web interface, as it only really needed to receive calls. The next thing that customers started to ask was whether it was possible to use a pair of CallMeT boxes as an end-to-end IP audio connection. And by the way, it would be nice to have some quick dial buttons so that we could connect to different destinations without having to use a laptop. This was for sports events, which had been covered mainly using Glensound ISDN mixers, and CallMeT provided an ideal solution to allow them to connect over IP. So we added what was requested, which was 3 buttons, 2 destinations and a drop. But, of course, that turned out not to be quite enough, so we made it 5 buttons, which gives 8 destinations using the drop button as a shift. The next request was to be able to connect using USB audio, so that users could plug in a low-cost USB headset or mixer for home studios, web use and podcasts. By this time, we had a number of customers who had the non-button version and wanted to change to have quick dials. So we also added the ability for the USB port to be used with a keypad, either for dialing numerical destinations, just like with an ISDN call, or to trigger the 8 pre-programmed connections. And the latest thing we've incorporated, again from customer requests, is what we call Smart Stream. The scenario that was outlined was where at the end of a football match there'd be the need to contribute to the results programme, which was running on BBC Sport with a simultaneous roundup to BBC local radio. And it was obviously a hassle to have to take a completely separate setup just to allow this. What SmartStream does is lets you connect to more than one destination at a time and select which audio channel, so left, right or both, goes to which destination. In the example that I've just given, left might go to BBC Sport and right to BBC local radio, whereas at other times multiple stations might wish to take the same commentary at the same time, which is also possible. The audio routing is all set up as part of the quick dial settings in the web interface, as you can see. And last but not least, and really prompted by presenters and producers having to work from home over the last year, we've recently developed CallMe Direct. CallMe Direct is a browser-to-browser IP audio codec, which we can proudly say was awarded NAB 2020 Product of the Year. It's similar to CallMe Click&Connect in that the host sends a link to the guest, who just opens it in a browser on a desktop, laptop, tablet or phone, except with Direct, the guest is not connected to a hardware codec in the studio, but instead directly to the host's browser. It provides a live connection with the same great-sounding Opus audio quality that CallMe Click&Connect offers, but the really clever feature is that it also allows the host to record both ends of the call in lossless quality, all within the web browser. Even cleverer, the recordings are made in each browser separately, with the guest's recording transferred in the background in real time to the host. So even if the connectivity is poor, at the end of the call the host ends up with a perfect copy of the guest's audio. This makes it ideal for later repeats, as well as interviews when making programs and podcasts from home. The links that CallMe Direct generates for guests can be shared via all the usual channels on a phone, email, SMS, WhatsApp, iMessage, and can even be shown on the screen as a QR code. This is great for a couple of scenarios. One is where you're on a video call with someone and want to record in high quality. Just hold up your phone and have them scan it with theirs, and CallMe Direct provides a much higher quality recording of the audio. The other application is for socially distanced in-person interviews. You no longer have to gaffer tape a microphone to the end of a broom handle. You can just hold up your phone so the guest can scan the QR code with theirs, and your browsers are then connected together for live audio and recording of both sides of the conversation. So I hope this has been a useful overview of the three members of the CallMe family. CallMe Click&Connect for connecting guests and reporters back to the studio using just a web browser. CallMeT, a low-cost hardware IP codec with quick dial buttons, analog and USB audio and SmartStream technology, and CallMe Direct, our browser-to-browser solution, which connects hosts to guests for live audio and lossless background recording. If you'd like a free trial of CallMe or further information about any of our products, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. You can contact us by email on info@vtx.uk and find more details on our website at www.vtx.uk. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the event. And finally, if you can spare us just a minute...
So, 60 seconds without hesitation, repetition or deviation. The subject is CallMe.
There are three CallMes. CallMe Click&Connect lets you put guests and reporters live on air by them clicking on your branded web link on their browser using a computer, tablet or smartphone to connect them live with 15 kHz two-way audio to one of your studio codecs.
CallMe Direct just won NAB Radio Product of the Year and connects the host browser direct to your guest's browser for live streaming, plus it offers secure lossless recording for both ends of the conversation in case of connection issues.
Finally, CallMeT is our low-cost hardware IP audio codec, which is compatible with most other manufacturers' codecs, and can be used as the studio end for CallMe Click&Connect, and with its quick dial presets, is ideal for using ISDN mixers over IP and for journalists working from home. It has analog plus USB audio, which means that you only need to plug in a USB headset or microphone to go live.
We have all the freebies for NAB and IBC, both cancelled, still to give away, so visit us online, give us your details to claim yours.